Unit 1, Diversity in the Living World. Biology is the science of life forms and living processes. The living world comprises an amazing diversity of living organisms. Early man could easily perceive the difference between inanimate matter and living organism. Early man defined some of the inanimate matter, wind, sea, fire, etc., and some among the animals and plants. A common feature of all such forms of inanimate and animate object was the sense of awe or fear that they evoked. The description of living organisms, including human beings, began much later in human history. Societies which indulged in anthropocentric view of biology could register limited progress in biological knowledge. Systematic and monumental description of life forms brought in out of necessity detailed system of identification, nomenclature and classification. The biggest spin of such study was the recognition of the sharing of similarities among living organisms, both horizontally and vertically, that all present-day living organisms are related to each other and also to all organisms that ever lived on this earth, was a revelation which humbled man and led to culture movement for conservation of biodiversity. In the following chapters of this unit, you will get a description including classification of animals and plants from a taxonomist perspective. Scientist born on 5 July 1904 in Kempten, Germany, Ernst Mayr, the Harvard University evolutionary biologist who has been called the Darwin of 20th century, was one of the 100 greatest scientists of all time. Mayr joined Harvard's Faculty of Arts and Science in 1953 and retired in 1975, assuming the title Alexander Agassiz Professor of Zoology Emeritus throughout his nearly 18-year career. His research spanned ornithology, taxonomy, geography, evolution, systematics, and the history and philosophy of biology. He almost single-handedly made the origin, species diversity the central question of evolutionary biology that it is today. He also pioneered the currently accepted definition of a biological species. Mayr was awarded the 3 prizes widely regarded as the Triple Crown of Biology: the Bolzan Prize in 1983, the International Prize for Biology in 1994, and the Crawford Prize in 1999. Mayr died at the age of 100 in the year of 2004. Chapter 1: The Living World. How wonderful is the living world! The wide range of living types is amazing. The extraordinary habitat in which we find living organisms, be it cold mountain, deciduous forest, ocean, freshwater lakes, desert, or hot springs, leave us speechless. The beauty of galloping horse, of the migrating bird, the valley of flower, or the attacking stork evokes awe and a deep sense of wonder. The ecological conflict and cooperation among members of a population and among population of a community, or even the molecular traffic inside a cell, make us deeply reflect on what indeed is life. This question has 2 implicit questions within it. The first is a technical one and seek answer to what living is as opposed to the non-living, and the second is philosophical one and seek answer to what the purpose of life is. As scientists, we shall not attempt answering the second question. We will try to reflect on what is living. 1.1 What is living? When we try to define living, we conventionally look for distinctive characteristics exhibited by living organism. Growth, reproduction, ability to sense environment and mount a suitable response come to our mind immediately as unique feature of living organism. One can add a few more features like metabolism, ability to self-replicate, self-organize, interact, and emergence to these lists. Let us try to understand each of these. All living organisms grow. Increase in mass, increase in number of individuals are twin characteristics of growth. A multicellular organism grows by cell division. In plant, this growth by cell division occurs occurs continuously throughout their lifespan. In animals, this growth is seen only up to a certain age. However, cell division occurs in certain tissue to replace lost cell. Unicellular organisms also grow by cell division. One can easily observe this in vitro culture by simply counting the number of cells under the microscope. In majority of higher animals and plants, growth and reproduction are mutually exclusive events. One must remember that increase in body mass is considered as growth. Non-living objects also grow if we take increase in body mass as a certain criteria for growth. Mountain boulders and sound molds too grow. However, this kind of growth exhibited by non-living object is by accumulation of material on the surface. In living organism, growth is from inside. Growth therefore cannot be taken as a defining property of living organism. Condition under which it can be observed in non-living organism have to be explained, and then we understand that it is a characteristic of living system. A dead organism does not grow. Reproduction likewise is a characteristic of living organism. In multicellular organism, reproduction refers to a production of progeny possessing feature more or less similar to those of parents. Invariably and implicitly, we refer to sexual reproduction. Organisms reproduce by asexual means also. Fungi multiply and spread easily due to the millions of asexual spores they produce. In lower organism like yeast and hydra, we observe budding. In planaria flatworm, we observe true regeneration, that is, a fragmented organism regenerate the lost part of its body and become a new organism. The fungi, the filamentous algae, the proteina of mosses all easily multiply by fragmentation. When it comes to unicellular organism like bacteria, unicellular algae or amoeba, reproduction is synonymous with growth, that is, increase in number of cells. We have already defined growth as equivalent to increase in cell number or mass. Hence, we notice that in single cell organism, we are not very clear about the uses of these two terms, growth and reproduction. Further, there are many organisms which do not reproduce, like mules, sterile worker bees, infertile human couples, etc. Hence, reproduction also cannot be an all-inclusive defining characteristics of living organism. Of course, no non-living object is capable of reproducing or replicating itself. Another characteristics of life is metabolism. All living organisms are made up of chemical. These chemicals, small and big, belonging to various classes and size, function, etc., are constantly being made and changed into some other biomolecules. These conversions are chemical reaction or metabolic reaction. There are thousands of metabolic reaction occurring simultaneously inside all living organisms, be they unicellular or multicellular. All plants, animal, fungi and microbes exhibit metabolism. The sum total of all the chemical reaction occurring in our body is metabolism. No non-living object exhibit metabolism. Metabolic reaction can be demonstrated outside the body in cell-free system. An isolated metabolic reaction outside the body of an organism performed in a test tube is neither living nor non-living. Hence, while metabolism is a defining feature of all living organisms without exception, isolated metabolic reaction in vitro are not living things but surely living reaction. Hence, cellular organization of the body is the defining feature of the life form. Perhaps the most obvious and technically complicated feature of all living organisms is the ability to sense their surrounding or environment and respond to these environmental stimuli, which could be physical, chemical or biological. We sense our environment through our sense organ. Plants respond to external factors like light, water, temperature, other organisms, pollutant, etc. All organisms from the prokaryote to the most complex eukaryotes can sense and respond to environmental Environmental cues, photoperiod affect reproduction in seasonal breeders, both plants and animals. All organisms handle chemicals entering their body. All organisms therefore are aware of their surrounding. Human being is the only organism who is aware of himself, that is, has self consciousness therefore becomes the defining property of living organism. When it comes to human being, it is all the more difficult to define the living state. We observe patient lying in coma in hospital, virtually supported by machine which replace heart and lungs. The patient is otherwise brain dead. The patient has no self-consciousness. Are such patients who never come back to normal life, living or non-living. In higher classes, you will come to know that all living phenomena are due to underlying interaction. Properties of tissue are not present in the constituent cell, but arise as a result of interaction among the constituent cell. Similarly, properties of cellular organelle like are not present in the molecular constituent of the organelle, but arise as a result of interaction among the molecular component comprising the organelle. These interactions result in emergent properties at a higher level of organization. This phenomena is true in the hierarchy of organizational complexity at all levels. Therefore, we can say that living organisms are self-replicating, evolving, and self-regulating interactive systems capable of responding to external stimuli. Biology is the story of life on earth. Biology is the story of evolution of living organisms on earth. All living organisms, present, past, and future, are linked to one another by the sharing of common genetic material, but to varying degrees. 1.2 Diversity in the living world. If you look around, you will see a large variety of living organisms, be it potted plants, insect, bird, your pets, or other animals and plants. There are also several organisms that you cannot see with your naked eye, but they are all around you. If you were to increase the area that you make observation in, the range and variety of organisms that you see would increase. Obviously, if you were to visit a dense forest, you would probably see a much greater number and kinds of living organism in it. Each different kind of plants, animal, or organism that you see represent a species. The number of species that are known and described range between 1.7 to 1.8 million. This refers to biodiversity, or the number and the types of organisms present on Earth. We should remember here that as we explore new areas and even old ones, new organisms are continuously being identified. As stated earlier, there are millions of plants and animals in the world. We know the plants and animals in our own area by their local names. These local names would vary from place to place, even within a country. Probably you would recognize the confusion that would be created if we did not find ways and means to talk to each other to refer to organisms we are talking about. Hence, there is a need to standardize the naming of living organisms such that particular organism is known by the same name all over the world. This process is called nomenclature. Obviously, nomenclature or naming is only possible when the organism is described correctly and we know to what the organism the name is attached to. This is identification. In order to facilitate the study, number of scientists have established procedure to assign a scientific name to each known organism. This is acceptable to biologists all over the world. For plants, scientific names are based on agreed principles and criteria which are provided in International Code for Botanical Nomenclature (ICBN). You may ask, how are animals named? Animal taxonomists have evolved International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. The scientific name ensures that each organism has only one name. Description of any organism should enable the people in any part of the world to arrive at the same name. They also ensure that such a name has not been used for many other organisms. Biologists follow universally accepted principle to provide scientific names to known organisms. Each name has two components, the generic name and specific epithet. This system of providing a name with two components is called binomial nomenclature. This naming system given by Carolus Linnaeus is being practiced by biologists all over the world. This naming system using a two-word format was found convenient. Let us take the example of mango to understand the way of providing scientific names better. The scientific name of mango is written as Mangifera indica. Let us see how it is a binomial name. In this name, Mangifera represents the genus, while indica is a particular species or a specific epithet. Other universal rule of nomenclature are as follows. Point number 1. Biological names are generally in Latin and written in italics. They are Latinized or derived from Latin irrespective of their origin. The first word in a biological name represents the genus, while the second component denotes the specific epithet. Both the words in a biological name, when handwritten, are separately underlined or printed in italics to indicate their Latin origin. Point number 4. The first word denoting the genus starts with a capital letter, while the specific epithet starts with a small letter. It can be illustrated with the example of Mangifera indica. Name of the author appears after the specific epithet, that is at the end of the biological name, and is written in an abbreviated form. Example: Mangifera indica Linnaeus. Lin. It indicates that this species was first described by Linnaeus. Since it is nearly impossible to study all the living organisms, it is necessary to devise some means to make this possible. This process is classification. Classification is the process by which anything is grouped into convenient categories based on some easily observable character. For example, we easily recognize groups such as plants or animals or dogs, cats or insects. The moment we use any of these terms, we associate certain character with the organism in that group. What image do you see when you think of dog? Obviously, each one of us will see dogs and not cats. Now, if we were to think of elastins, we know what we are talking about. Similarly, suppose we are to say mammals, you would of course think of animals with external ears and body hair. Likewise, in plants, if you try to talk weight, the picture in each of our mind will be of wheat plants, not of rice or any other plant. Hence, all these dogs, cats, mammals, wheat, rice plant, and animals etc. are convenient categories we use to study organisms. The scientific term for this category is taxa. Here you must recognize that taxa indicate the category at very different level. Plants also form a taxa. Wheat is also a taxa. Similarly, animals, mammals, dogs are all taxa. But you know that a dog is a mammal and mammals are animals. Therefore, animals and mammals and dogs represent taxa at different level. Hence, based on characteristics, all living organisms can be classified into different taxa. This process of classification is taxonomy. External and internal structure along with the structure of cell development process and ecological information of organisms and organisms are essential and form the basis of modern taxonomic study. Hence characterization, identification, classification and nomenclature are the processes that are basic to taxonomy. Taxonomy is not something new. Human beings have always been interested in knowing more and more about the various kind of organisms, particularly with reference to their own use. In early days, human beings needed to find source for their basic needs of food, clothing and shelter. Hence, the earliest classification were based on the uses of various organisms. Human beings were since long not only interested in knowing more about different kinds of organisms and their diversity, but also the relationship among them. This branch of study was referred to as systematics. The word systematics is derived from the Latin word systema, which means systematic arrangement of organisms. A systematic arrangement of organisms. Linnaeus used Systema Naturae as the title of his publication. The scope of systematic was later enlarged to include identification, nomenclature, and classification. Systematic takes into account evolutionary relationship between organisms. 1.3 Taxonomic categories. Classification is not a single step process but involve hierarchy of steps in which each step represents a rank or category. Since the category is a part of overall taxonomic arrangement, it is called the taxonomic category, and all categories together constitute the taxonomic hierarchy. Each category referred to as a unit of classification in fact represent a rank and is commonly termed as taxon. Plural taxa. Taxonomic categories and hierarchy can be illustrated by an example. Insect represent a group of organisms sharing common feature like three pair of jointed legs. It means insects are recognizable concrete object which can be classified and thus were given a rank or category. Can you name other such groups of organisms? Remember, groups represent category. Category further denote rank. Each rank or taxon in fact represent a unit of classification. These taxonomic groups categories are distinct biological entities and not merely morphological aggregate. Taxonomical study of all known organisms have led to the development of common categories such as kingdom, phylum or division for plants, class, order, family, genus, species. All organisms including those in the plant and animal kingdom have species as lowest category. Now the question you may ask is how to place an organism in various categories. The basic requirement of the knowledge of characters of an individual or group of organism. These help in identifying similarities and dissimilarities among the individual of the same kind of organism as well as of the other kind of organism. 1.31 Species. Taxonomic studies considered a group of individual organisms with the fundamental similarities as a species. One should be able to distinguish one species from the other closely related species based on the distinct morphological differences. Let us consider Magnifera indica, Solanum tuberosum, potato, Panthera leo, and all the three names indica, tuberosum, and leo represent the specific epithets, while the first word Magnifera, Solanum, and Panthera are genera represent another higher level of taxon or category. Each genus may have one or more than one specific epithet representing different organisms but having morphological similarities. For example, Panthera has another specific epithet, and Tigris and Solanum includes species like Nigrum and Melangona. Human beings belong to the species Sapiens, which is grouped in genus Homo. The scientific name thus for human being is written as Homo sapiens. 1.32 Genus comprises a group of related species which has more character in common in comparison to species of other genera. We can say that genera are aggregates of closely related species. For example, potato and brinjal are two different species but all belongs to the genus Solanum. Lion, Panthera leo, leopard, Panthera pardus, and tiger, Panthera tigris, with several common features, are all species of the genus Panthera. These genus differ from another genus Felis, which include cats. 1.3.3 Family. The next category, family, has a group of related genera with still less number of similarities as compared to the genus and species. Families are characterized on the basis of both vegetative and reproductive feature of plant species. Among plants, for example, the three different genera Solanum, Petunia, and Datura are placed in the family Solanaceae. Among animals, for example, genus Panthera comprising lion, tiger, Leopard is put along with genus Felis cats in the family Felidae. Similarly, if you observe the features of a cat and a dog, you will find some similarities and some differences as well. They are separated in two different families, Felidae and Canidae respectively. 1.34 Order. You have seen earlier that categories like species, genus and families are based on a number of similar characters. Generally, order and other higher taxonomic categories are identified based on the aggregates of character. Order being a higher category is the assemblage of families which exhibit a few similar character. The similar character are less in number as compared to different genera included in a family. Plants families like Convolucea solanaceae are included in the order Polymonials, mainly based on the floral character. The animal order Carnivora include families like Felidae and Canidae. 1.35 Class. These category includes related order. For example, order Primate comprising monkey, gorilla and gibbon is placed in class Mammalia, along with the order Carnivora that included animals like tiger, cat and dog. Class Mammalia has other order also. 1.36 Phylum. Classes comprising animals like fishes, amphibians, reptiles, birds along with the mammals constitute the next higher category called phylum. All these based on the common feature like presence of notochord and dorsal hollow neural system are included in phylum Chordata. In case of plant, classes with a few similar characters are assigned to a higher category called division. 1.37 Kingdom. All animals belonging to various phyla are assigned to the highest category called Kingdom Animalia. In the classification system of animals, the kingdom Plantae, on the other hand, is distinct and comprises all plants from various divisions. Henceforth, we will refer to these two groups as animals and plant kingdom. The taxonomic categories from species to kingdom have been shown in ascending order, starting with species in. They are broad categories. However, taxonomists have also developed subcategories in their hierarchy to facilitate more sound and scientific placement of various taxa. Look at the hierarchy in Figure 1.1. Figure 1.1. Can you recall the basis of arrangement? Say for example, as we go higher from species to kingdom, the number of common characteristics goes on decreasing. Lower the taxa, more are the characteristics that the members within the taxon share. Higher the category, greater is the difficulty of determining the relationship to other taxa at the same level. Hence, the problem of classification becomes more complex. Taxonomic categories showing hierarchical arrangement in ascending order. Species, genus, family, order, class, phylum or division, kingdom. Table 1.1 indicate the taxonomic categories to which some common organisms like housefly, mango and wheat belong. This table. 1.4 Taxonomical aids. Taxonomic study of various species of plants, animals and other organisms are useful in agriculture, forestry, industry and in general in knowing our bioresources and their diversity. These study would require classification and identification of organisms. Identification of organisms require intensive laboratory and field studies. The classification of actual specimen of plant and animal species is essential and is the prime source of taxonomic studies. These are also fundamental to studies and essential for training in systematic. It is used for classification of an organism and the information gathered is also stored along with the specimen. In some cases, the specimen is preserved for future study. Biologists have established certain procedures and techniques to store and preserve the information as well as the specimens. Some of these are explained to help you understand the usage of these aids. 1.41 Herbarium. Herbarium is a storehouse of collected plant specimens that are dried, pressed, and preserved on seeds. Further, these seeds are arranged according to universally accepted system of classification. These specimens, along with their description on herbarium seed, became a storehouse of repository for future use. In figure 0.12, the herbarium seeds also carry a label providing information about the date and place of collection, English, local, and botanical names, family, collector's name, etc. Herbaria also serve as quick reference system in taxonomical studies. Botanical garden. 1.42 Botanical garden. These specialized gardens have a collection of living plants for reference. Plant species in these gardens are grown for identification purpose, and each plant is labeled indicating its botanical and scientific name and its family. The famous botanical gardens are at Kew, England, Indian Botanical Garden, Havra, India, and at National Botanical Research Institute, Lucknow, India. 1.43 Museum. Biological museum. Biological museum are generally set up in educational institutes such as school, colleges. Museum have collection of preserved plant and animal specimens for study and references. Specimens are preserved in the container or jar in preservative solution. Plant and animal specimen may also be preserved as dye specimen, insect, or preserved in insect boxes. After collecting, killing, and pinning, larger animals like birds and mammals are usually stuffed and preserved. Museums often have collection of skeletons of animals too. 1.44 Zoological park. These are the places where wild animals are kept in protected environment under a human care, and which enable us to learn about their food habit and behavior. All animals in a zoo are provided as far as possible the conditions similar to their natural habitats. Children love visiting these parks, commonly called zoo. 1.4.5 Key is another taxonomical aid used for identification of plants and animals based on similarities and dissimilarities. The keys are based on the contrasting characters generally in a pair called couplet. It represents the choice made between two opposite options. This result is in acceptance of only one and rejection of the other. Each statement is the key is called a lead. Separate taxonomic keys are required for each taxonomic category, such as family, genus, and species. For identification purpose, keys are generally analytical in nature. Flora manuals, monographs, and catalogs are some of other means of recording description. They also help in correct identification. Flora contains the actual account of habitat and distribution of plant of a given area. These provide the index to the plant species found in a particular area. Manuals are useful in providing information for identification of names species found in an area. Monograph contain information of any one taxon. Summary: the living world is rich in variety. Millions of plants and animals have been identified and described, but a large number of still remains unknown. The very range of organisms in terms of size, color, habitat, physiological and morphological feature make us seek the defining characteristics of living organism in order to facilitate the study of kinds and diversity of organisms. Biologists have evolved certain rules and principles for identification, nomenclature, and classification of organisms. The branch of knowledge dealing with these aspects is referred to as taxonomy. The taxonomy study of various species of plants and animals are useful in agriculture, forestry, industry, and in general for knowing our bioresources and their diversity. The basics of taxonomy like identification, naming, and classification of organisms are universally evolved under international international codes based on the resemblance and distinct differences. Each organism is identified and assigned a correct scientific biological name comprising two words as per the binomial system of nomenclature. An organism represent occupies a place or position in the system of classification. There are many categories, rank, and are generally referred to as taxonomic categories or taxa. All the categories constitute a taxonomic hierarchy. Taxonomists have developed a variety of taxonomic aids to facilitate identification, naming, and classification of organisms. These studies are carried out from the actual specimens, which are collected from the field and preserved as referrals in the form of herbaria, museum, and in botanical garden and zoological parks. It requires a special technique for collection and preservation of specimens in herbaria and museum. Live specimens, on the other hand, of plants and animals are found in botanical garden or in zoological park. Taxonomists also prepare and disseminate information through the manuals and monographs for further taxonomic study. Taxonomic keys are tools that help in identification based on characteristics. Thank you friends for listening this audio, and please post your comment if you want any kind of improvement. So friends, मिलते हैं next video में, तब तक के लिए bye, and just stay tuned with Biology Critic and enjoy the knowledge. Bye.